Today, we're fortunate enough to have one of the top producers on the real estate side in our county, Wayne County here, Ali Keys Beydoun.
Thank you for having me.
Some people don't even know your name. They just know you as Keys or Ali Keys.
That's true.
Is that trademarked?
It's trademarked federally, and it's become my family name.
Beautiful.
And they say it in Arabic as well. It's Keys in English and Maftah in Arabic.
Thank you for joining us. My name is Charlie Shami, by the way, CEO of Sonic Loans.
The greatest of all time.
Thank you. We're going to talk about you have a mortgage loan officer here and a top producing real estate agent here, and we're just going to talk about the housing market, things that we're seeing right now. We're just going to kind of flow and hopefully answer questions to if you're a real estate agent, if you're a loan officer, if you want to buy a house, if you want to sell a house, some way you take away value from this, then we did a great job. Ali, what are some common questions you're getting right now from people who are maybe thinking about buying a house and just don't know?
I get maybe on average 10 to 15 calls or texts a day asking me from random people asking if it's a good time to buy a house.
What do you say from the real estate side? Is that a good time to buy a house?
It's a phenomenal time. There's no right or wrong time to buy a house. If you're financially capable of buying a house, buy a house. I always tell people, my clients ask, when's a good time to buy a house? I say 5 years ago, right? Because why, Charlie? 5 years ago, 2018, how much equity did people grow into their properties since they purchased to now?
We have, I mean, this is an unprecedented time, but we have people that bought in 2020 that are taking away, 5-6 figures from selling their house. So if they're in 2018, they're doing very well.
Yeah,
if they're selling their house right now.
And where do you think the market will be in 5 years? Obviously, we don't have a glass ball where we can predict, right? But history kind of repeats itself, and just based on market trends, looks like the wave is going up.
Yeah, and 5 years ago, people were asking that same question: is it a good time to buy a house? And they were kind of scared. And right now, people are still asking that question. And 2 years ago, they were asking that question. And 10 years ago, they were asking that question. It's always going to be a question of, is this the right time to buy a house? And in my experience, if you're buying a house and you're renting, it's always a good time because you're paying, what's the interest rate on rent?
100%.
100%. You're gaining no equity in that house. So no matter how many payments you make, you're going to make a payment. The landlord is going to take that payment. They're going to pay the mortgage. They're going to pay all the expenses, and they're going to put the profits in their pocket. Part of that mortgage, they're also going to pay in equity into their house, into that mortgage they have. You're paying a mortgage. It's not yours. You're letting somebody else profit off it. But when you own the house, part of your mortgage payment is interest, which is tax deductible. The other part is principal, which brings your loan balance down, and you own more and more of the house every month. And you're not paying anybody profits. They're not putting any profits in their pocket.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, and I get it. It's a huge, investment. It's one of the largest investments one will probably make in their life. They're buying a house, a few $100,000, $100,000. It's a lot of money we're talking about, right? So there's fear involved. They're not buying a watermelon. I get it. It's a lot of fear involved. But keep in mind, though, there's a lot of perks to this as well. I mean, there's something called seller concessions, right? I don't know if people are ever aware of seller concessions, if they've come across it before, but especially in the market that we're in right now where the rates did spike and there's a lot of fearful people out there that don't want to make the move, properties, the days on market have extended a little bit, right? That gives the buyer an upper hand in negotiating a deal. Now, when you're negotiating a deal, like, in 2020 or in 21, early on when the rates were about 2.5 to 3%, you were giving your children away with the offer, right?
You couldn't even talk to the seller or the listing agent.
You couldn't even talk to them.
You put in your contract and they already have a better one.
They already have a better one, and you were just, dust in the wind. At this point right now, the market that we're in and the way things are settling, we're reaching equilibrium. By reaching equilibrium, that means that we can actually talk to a seller and they'll talk back to us.
Yeah.
They'll talk back. They'll go on a second date with us.
Yeah.
So what we can do with concessions is put the offer in. Let's just say your closing cost is X amount of dollars. Throw a number in.
So $10,000.
$10,000. We can put an offer in. House is listed at $200,000. Let's give them $200,000 and ask for $5,000 in seller concessions.
Yeah.
That's $5,000 that will go back to you towards your closing costs. So you're coming to the closing with $5,000 less in your pocket.
The only thing you always have to pay out of pocket when you're buying a house is the down payment. That part has to come from you. The rest of it can be paid by the seller.
Where's the rate at today, Charlie? What's it?
We, first-time home buyers, they removed all of the adjustments. Adjustments are costs that go into the rate that can move your rate up or down. For a first-time home buyer, you can have low credit, you can be putting a low amount down, and you can still get into fives. Just depending on when we lock. The market is like stocks, it goes up and down.
What's the worst case scenario though? Think about this. Let's just say the rate is at 5, which is not a bad rate. Honestly, 6 is not a bad rate. These are all average rates. I mean, compared to where they were obviously in the 2 and the 3s, yeah, they seem bad, but they're great still. So worst case scenario, they buy a house and they have a interest rate of 5 or 6 or even 7. What can they do to change that?
House 7 years in the mortgage 7 years, but you don't have to. Once rates drop, you can refinance. And what a refinance is we take out a new loan, we pay off the old loan, and now you have that old one is done. Whatever the rate was, it's all done. But now you have a new loan, and you could roll in whatever the closing costs are in, so you don't pay anything out of pocket for most of the time. And now you have a new loan with whatever the market rate is at that time. So let's say in 6 months rates are in the 4s. Well, you can refinance, pay off that old loan, you don't have it anymore, and now you have a new loan with a rate in the 4s. What I don't like about you paying closing costs out of pocket, it's better to just keep that money, limit the closing costs you have when you buy a house, and then refinance to lower the rate if you need to.
Yeah, and the good thing too is I always say, like, obviously since the rates are a little bit higher than what they were and the price has settled a little bit, you can't rebuy the house for a lower price, but you can refinance the rate. So it makes sense. It's a win-win for you guys.
We don't know. We don't even know if this is where it settled.
No.
You see inventory.
Yeah.
I was looking online today to see what houses aren't available on the market. Not many.
Not many. There's very low inventory.
Yeah.
And we're going back into the phase of, since there's low inventory, the rates are starting to settle a little bit. We're getting multiple offer situations on a lot of my listings as well.
People are getting their tax refund checks now. People are off the fences that were waiting in the winter. It's always when the weather seems to, like here we're in Michigan, when it's cold outside.
You really hibernate.
But once it starts warming up, which it has been, you start seeing activity. So now there's more activity. There's more people off the fences that want to buy, and there's still low inventory. That's a problem. That's going to cause the laws of supply and demand prices to go up.
Shift. So let's just go back to this question. Is it a good time to buy a house?
Yeah. So obviously it's situational. Talk to your realtor, talk to your loan officer so you can see exactly what's going on. But if you're renting, it's always a good time to buy a house. If you own a house, people say, well, I own a house. I don't want to, buy a house right now where the market is. What if the market goes down? What if it goes up? Well, if you own a house and you're selling that house, then you're going to get, and the market's up, you're going to get more for the house that you have, right?
It's situational as well, too. That's a great point. And I was sitting with a guy the other night, and he has a home that he owns, that he loves, and his rate is about 2.5%. Granted, it's not 2.5% right now. So I said, do you absolutely have to sell? He said, no. I said, then don't sell. Or keep the house, rent it out, and buy another one if you want something a little bigger, maybe for you and your family. So sometimes it's a good time, sometimes it's not a good time to sell.
But if you're talking about just like what I'm going to pay for this house versus what I'm going to sell my house for, it's always going to even out. You're going to sell the house as long as you're doing it at the same time. If the market is down, you're going to sell your house for less, but you're going to buy a house for less. If the market is up, you're going to sell it for more, but you're going to pay more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, selling in the same market, for example, like investors will go out and they'll buy a property and will run their future projected cost on what that house is after renovation cost, what it's going to cost to sell. And if an investor buys this property and sits on it for a year, now you're selling in a different market. So if you're buying in a market, sell in that same market, because if the rates go up and then the prices settle a little bit and you sell in a different market, now you're losing money. So it's situational. You
could potentially gain, but it's better to be safe and not lose.
Exactly. Always sell in the same market.
Yeah.
That's probably the key.
Another thing we get a lot of is for people who want to be investors, who want to diversify a little bit, who want to invest in real estate, will ask, is this a good time to buy real estate? And we had a client together who was buying an investment property in December. And as long as he closed it in the month of December, my God, the write-offs he got. So you can do tax segregation. You can depreciate all of the stuff that's temporary in the house.
Right.
You talk to your CPA about that. You can write off the interest that you're paying on the house. There's so many write-offs and benefits you get. And as long as you're classified as an active real estate investor or active real estate professional, then you can have those deductions go against your W-2 income. So
that's right. That's true.
With an investment property, you get, not only do you get cash flow, hopefully, but that's not what it is. That's not all it's about. It's about depreciation. It's about somebody else paying down this mortgage. So each month you have more and more ownership. And it's just what the IRS wants people to do, invest in housing.
Yeah, and that's a good point that you make. It's not just about the cash flow. Hopefully there's cash flow, especially if since we're on the topic of investing, if you're an investor and you're looking to buy a home to make money off of it at that time, like a short-term gratification, like I want money instantaneously every month, great. If we can get you a positive cash flow home, that'll be amazing. If you're looking at about $200-300 in positive cash flow, that's great. Yeah. If you're breaking even, that's great.
That's still great.
That's great. If you're losing, sometimes you can still make sense over time to build equity in the property, but you're not going to get rich overnight by renting. Renting, what it entails is borrowing the bank's money and having somebody else, a renter, pay that payment down for you. So then over time, you're going to build more equity as the market shifts into your property. That's what investing in real estate is.
You know what the tax rate is? Trick question, but do you know what the tax rate is for an investor that built equity in a house and they want to pull cash out with a new mortgage? The tax rate is
No.
That's all tax-free money. So when as long as you're not selling the house, when you sell the house, that's when you get taxed.
No.
But you can do a cash-out refinance on an investment property.
Right.
If you have some equity in there, get some money back, maybe buy a different investment property, or just have money sitting in your account because somebody else is making the payment on that money, but it comes out tax-free.
Tax-free. Or do a 1031 exchange.
Yeah, or that, which is selling a house and then using those same funds to buy another house that's either similar or better.
Right.
And then the taxes are just deferred on that. So 1031 exchange is great.
Is it a good time to buy a house, Charlie? And just answer my question, is it?
Generally, it's always a good time to buy a house.
Yeah.
Situationally, you said you had a client who it didn't make sense for them to buy a house. So you want to talk to your loan officer, know the numbers. You want to talk to your real estate agent and know kind of what's going on in the market. The correction that, the crash that people were talking about last year was about, depending on the market, 5 to 10% correction. So on a $200,000 house, you might now get it for 180.
The market fluctuates on a wave. It's a wave, and it's either skewed positive or negative. So the wave is always within a medium, and it will go up and it will go down a little bit between a 5 or 10 or 20%, differentiation. That's normal. People call me, the houses went down. The wave is down a little bit. Yeah, about 5 or 10% normal, but there's an indirect correlation between housing value and interest rates.
Yeah.
So that's something that we have to take into consideration. We've never experienced a crash. We've experienced a settlement in the market and a correction. That's all it is.
And I think, this is my humble opinion, based on what I'm seeing with my clients, with the houses they're putting offers in on, we're talking to listing agents, they're way closer than this than I am, but and seeing what other offers they're getting on houses, that we're gonna start seeing the pricing go up again. We're not seeing the $50,000 over asking, but we're seeing asking. We're seeing asking price.
Oh yeah, it's normal. It's very typical.
Yeah,
especially if you're pricing right. Yeah.
A normal market, people will go in under asking. That's the market it has been for almost 10 years.
Yeah, it was, and then when people had to overpay, and so I mean, when the rates were really low, historically low at a 2 or to 3%, right? People were overpaying about $50,000 to $100,000 in the property. It's literally inverted, because if the rates went up, now you're underpaying. So technically, it makes more sense to buy on this market than it did in the previous market, if anything.
All works itself out.
It does.
You got to look at it like, is this the right house for you and your family?
Right.
Does this house give you the right energy you want? Is this the house you love to wake up into? Is this a house that you own and not rent? You got to look at all the other stuff, because the numbers will work themselves.
They will, and it's all it's specific to each person. So obviously, anyone who has any questions or is just curious about, number one, what their home is worth. Number two, does it make sense to buy right now? They're situational, whatever it is. And if they have any questions and they love to reach out to myself or to Charlie, my phone number is 313-598-5100. And Charlie?
313-598-5100. Anybody in Michigan? Do you help people outside of Michigan?
We do.
The state that you're in, Ali's team can help you.
We can
connect you with the right local agent too, and make sure you're taken care of. Reach out to us, 313-488-4888. Our team, same. We're licensed in 9 states, but also have loan officers in other states that we vet out that can help you too. So 313-488-4888, or go to sonicloans.com, and we'll be happy to help.
Thanks. Is it a good time to buy?
Yes. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.